Hello everyone, welcome to Math 1. We're going to talk more about fractions. Today is March the 24th. We're going to talk about multiplying fractions. This is strategy 15. So let's get right into it. To multiply fractions, you multiply the numerator and then you multiply the denominator. If the fractions are greater than 0 or less than 1, the product will be less than the factors. A fraction like 4 over 5 can be thought of as a product of a whole number, and a unit fraction 4 over 5 equals 4 times 1/5. It can also be written as a product of a whole number, and a fraction that is not a unit fraction 4 over 5 equals 2 times 2/5. Remember that a unit fraction has 1 as the numerator. So let's look at example 1. Example 1 reads, each lap around a track of 1/4 of a mile, how many miles can Camille jog if she continues 6 laps? So we know we can multiply 1/4 times 6. So, or you can think of multiplication by a whole number like repeated addition. 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 equals 6 over 4. Then you can multiply fractions. You multiply the numerator and multiply the denominator. A whole number can be written as a fraction with a denominator of 1. So it can be said 1 times 6 is 6 and 4 times 1 is 4. And that's how we get 6 over 4. Then we can use a common factor to simplify before multiplying. 4 is 2. Let's look here. So let's look at the common factor as before multiplying a factor of 6 and 4 is 2. So this is how it is written. So it says 1/4 times 6 over 1 equals 3 over 2. So you can, the common denominator of course is going to be 2 because we know 4 and 6 will both divide into 2. So you say 2 will divide into 4 2 times, and the 6 will divide into 3 3 times. And that's how we get 1 times 3 is 2, and 2 times 1 is 2. And then we're going to take that 2 divided by 3, and we know that will divide in 1 times. So we can say 1 times 2 is 2, and then 3 minus 2 is going to equal 1. So this is how we got our answer of 1/2. 1 1/2. Camille jogs 1 1/2 of a miles. So when you're multiplying a proper fraction, a fraction where the numerator is smaller than the denominator, the whole number is greater than 1, then the product will be greater than the fraction and less than the whole number. 1 1/6 is greater than 1/4 and less than 6. So the answer is what they consider reasonable. Let's look at example right here. Let's put an arrow there so we know where example 2 is. Of songs on Mark's computer, 5/8 are classic rock. Of the classic rock songs, 2/3 were released before 1983. What fraction of the song on Mark's computer are classic rock songs released before 1983? So now we're going to multiply 5 over 8 times 2/3. Now again, it is showing us how to simplify. We simplify the fraction and multiply, and we know our common denominator between 4 and 8 is going to be 2 again. So we know that 2 will divide into 2 1 time, and 8 will divide into 2 4 times. And so that's where we're getting our simplifying. So then we're going to just multiply 5 times 1 is 5, and 4 times 3 is 12. And that's where we become 4 over 12. And that's of the songs of Mark's computer, we have 5/12 are classic rock songs released in 1983. Now, another way that you can work this out is you can just multiply it out. You can say 5/8 5/8 times 2/3. So we know that 2 times 5 is 10. And there again, 8 times 3 is 24. Now we got to think of a number that is going to divide into both, and we know 2 will. So 2/2. So we're going to say 2 divided by 10 will be 5. And then 2 divided by 24 is 12. And so that is the other way that you can do it if you don't want to simplify. There's, like we've talked about, there's different ways that you can do this. And if you have a different method, please, of course, you can share that with me. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, let's look at example 3. So we're going to multiply 7/5 times 3/8. The fraction 7/5 is called an improper fraction because the numerator is greater than the denominator. To multiply with an improper fraction, we're going to multiply the numerator and then the denominator. So we're going to say 5/7 times 3/8, and that is going to equal 21/40. So that is how we do an improper fraction. Let's look at our guided practice. Let's look at number 1. Number 1 says, each day, Ava walks 3/4 hour on her treadmill. How many hours does Ava walk in a week on her treadmill? So it says, so what we're going to do is we know there are 7 days in a week. So let's look at, we know she walks 3/4 of a mile. So let's put 3/4, and then we're going to multiply that times, there's 7 days, so we're going to put 7/1. And that is going to equal 3 times 7 is 21. And we know 4 times 1 is 4. So then we're going to go a step further. So we know we definitely have an improper fraction. So what can we do? We can divide. So let's go ahead and divide 4 divided by 21. And we know that will divide, 4 will divide into 21 5 times. We know 5 times 4 is 20. And we're going to subtract the 1 down. And then we're going to come up with 5 1/4. So Ava walks 5 1/4 hours on her treadmill each week. Okay, let's look at number 2. It says, what is the product of 4/5 times 1/2? So what we're going to do is we're going to take our 4/5 times 1/2, and that's going to equal 4/10. And then we know that the common denominator of 4 and 10 is going to be 2. So then we're just going to divide. 2 divided by 4 is 2. 2 divided by 10 is 5. And then that's how we're going to get 2/5. Now in the solution on the problem on our paper, it says we're going to simplify. So we know that 2 and 4 will both go into 2. So 4 will divide into 2 2 times, and 2 will divide into 2 1 time. So all we have to do is just multiply it out. 2 times 1 is 2, and then 5 times 1 is 5. Next problem, number 3. Number 3 says, which best describes the product of a proper fraction times 2? On A, well, we know as we read the instructions at the beginning, it says to multiply fractions, we multiply the numerator, then the denominator. And then it also says that if a fractions are greater than 0 and less than 1, then the product will be less than the factors. So with that being said, A says the product is less than the fraction. No, that is not correct. B, the product is equal to the fraction. No. C, the product is greater than the fraction but less than 2. And that is our correct answer. When you multiply a proper fraction by a whole number greater than 1, the product is between the fraction and the whole number. So let's look at number 4. Number 4 reads, of the points Kira scored this session, 7 out over 8 are from the field goals. Of this point, 2/3 are from 2-point field goals. Which fraction of Kira's points is from the 2-point field goals? It says write the answer in simplest form. Okay, so number 4, our problem is going to read, so it's going to say 7 over 8, and that's going to be times 2/3. So we know if we just multiply it out, 7 times 2 is 14, and 3 times 8 is going to be 24. So we know that they're both going to divide into 2. So we know that 14 divided by 2 is 7, and then 2 divided by 24 is 12. So that will be it in lowest form. Now, if we did it where we went to simplest form, let's look at it that way. And let's go back to simplest form. Okay, so let's, like I said, write it in simplest form. We know 2 will divide into 8, so we can write those in simplest form. So let's go ahead and do that. So we know that 2 will divide into 8 4 times, and we know that 2 will divide into 2 1 times. So all we're going to do, then we just multiply. So we'll say 7 times 1 is 7, and then we'll say 4 times 3 is 12. And that is our answer for number 4. Let's go to number 5. It says, financial planners advise that rent and utilities should be no more than 3/10 of a gross income. If a family earns $6,000 per month, what is the most they should spend on rent and utilities? Okay, so let's work this out. So we know what we're going to do for number 5 is we're going to say 3/10 times 6,000 over 1. And if we just multiply that out, we're going to get 18,000 over 10. And so we know we're going to write this in simplest form. So the way we're going to get our answer is we're going to divide 10,000 divided by 18,000. Real simple. So we know 10 will not divide into 1, but 10 will divide into 18 1 times. So we'll just subtract 8. 10 will not divide into 8, but 10 will divide into 80. So 10 will divide into 80 times. And so we know everything else is going to be 0, 0. So now we're going to get 1,800. And that is our answer. Now, if we did it where we went into simplest form, let's do this real quick. All right, so we can simply do this into simplest form. So we can say, because we know 10 and 6,000 will divide into each other. So we can do that by 10. So we know 10 will divide into 10 one times, and then 10 will divide into 6,600 times. And then we'll just multiply. So we know 3 times 600 is going to be 1,800. And then 1 times 1 is 1. So our answer again is 1,800. All right, let's go to number 6. A pitcher holds 3 quarts of liquid. If the pitcher is 3/4 full, how much liquid is in it? So let's work this one out very quickly. So we're going to say 3/4, 3/4 times 3/1. And if you just multiply it out, it's going to equal 9/4. So then we're going to divide our 4 divided by 9, and that will divide 2 times the 1 remainder. So then we're going to have 2 1/4 is our answer, and that is C. All right, let's go to number 7. Number 7 reads, 2 proper fractions greater than 0 are multiplied, but best describes the products. So let's see, the product is less than either of the fractions. So we know number 7 is going to be A. Let's go to number 8. Number 8 reads, the Howard family property has an area of 1/4 acre. The backyard makes up 2/3 of the property. How many acres is the backyard? So what are we going to do? We're going to say 1 1/4 times 2/3. So we can say 1 times 2 is 2, and then we can say 4 times 3 is 12. And we know we can simplify those because they will both divide into 2. So we know 2 will divide into 2 1 time, and 2 will divide into 12 6 times. And so that is our answer, is 1/6. Or we can simplify it. We can say 1/4 times 2/3. So we know that 2 and 4 will both divide into 2. So let's simplify it. So we know 2 will divide into 2 1 times, and then 2 will divide into 4 2 times. And then we're just going to multiply. So then we go 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times 2 is 6. So that's where we're going to get our answer, is 1/6, C. All right, so let's look at number 9. Number 9 reads, here. So it just says simply to multiply. 5/6 times 3/10. So let's multiply. So we know 5 times 3 is going to be 15. It's going to be 15 over 60. Now we know we can reduce those because they both will divide into 15. Oh, class is over with. Just kidding. And then we know, there we go. So 15 will divide into 15 1 times, and then 15 will divide into 60 4 times. Now we could do, or we can simplify. We'll simplify this. So we'll say 5/6 times 3/10. And we know that we can simplify both ways. So we know that 3 and 6 will go into 3. So that'll go 1 time, and this will go 2 times. Just like 5 will go into 10. So that'll be 1. and 5 will go in there too. So we know we have 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times 2 is 4. And there we go, 1, 4, 1, 4. If you have any questions about these, please just feel free to email me and let me know, and I'll be happy to explain it further. Or you can call me here at Job Corps. All right, so let's look at number 10. So number 10 says, Mia folds a sheet of paper in half. So we know we're going to fold it in half, so let's go ahead and write this out as we go. Let's write this down. 1 half. So we have 1 half. And then it says, then she folds it in half again. So that's going to be times 1 half. Then she folds the results in half one more time. She opens the paper and this shades one of the sections formed by the fold of the line. Which fraction of the paper is shaded? Well, let's multiply this out. We know 1 times 1 times 1 is going to equal 1. And then 2 times 2 is going to equal 4. And then 4 times 2 is going to equal 8. So there we go. 1/8 will be our answer. That will be 8. Let's look at number 11. So number 11 reads, which products are whole numbers? Select the 2 that apply. So let's look at A. Let's work it out A. So we know that 3/4, make this a little bigger for you, so I can just work these out right here. Put this over 1. So we know 2 times 3 is 6, and then 1 times 4 is 4. And we know we can simplify those, and those will both reduce by 2. And that's going to be 3/2. Well, that's definitely not a whole number. So let's look at B. On B, let's change the color. So 4 times 4 is going to equal 16/5. Well, we know that's not going to work. So let's look at C. So on C, we have 2/3 times 6/1, and that's going to equal 12/3. And we know that will divide, 3 will divide into 12 4 times. So there's a whole number. So we know C is going to be one of our options. So let's look at D. So we know 3 times 10 will be 30, and then 1 times 8. So we know that's definitely not going to be it. But let's look at E. So we know 5 times 12 is going to be 60, and then 6 times 1 is 6. And we know that will equally divide out because we know 6 will divide into 60 10 times. So there's your answers, C and E. Let's look at number 12. So 12 reads 3/5 times 9/10. So we can simply look at number 12 and just multiply it out. So 3 times 9 equals, we know, 27. And then 5 times 10 is 50. It will not reduce, so it is simply B. Let's look at number 13. Number 13, we're going to multiply that one out also. We have 7/6 times 4/5. So we can simply just multiply it out. So we know 7 times 4 is 28. And then 6 times 5 is 30. And we know those will both reduce. Or we can simplify those, and they will multiply by 2. So 2 divided by 28 is 14. And then 2 divided by 30 is 15. So there again, our answer is going to be A. If you have any questions, like I said, you can email me or you can give me a call while we're still here on Center. Of course, my number here is area code 256-439-2894. All right, I hope y'all have a great day, and I will talk to y'all later.